The joke left his mouth before he could stop it. Light and careless, meant to soften a moment that felt too heavy for a man like him. But the room froze anyway, glittering lights suddenly harsh, laughter dying mid-breath, and in that split second, Marcus Hale realized that some words, even spoken in jest, have the power to crack open lives that have been carefully held together by silence and survival. Before the story unfolds any further, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of compassion that can change a life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Marcus was 36, a single father living in a modest apartment outside Chicago, Illinois, where winter winds rattled windows and bills piled up faster than dreams. His life had been reduced to routines measured in school drop-offs, microwave dinners, and late-night laundry after his son Caleb finally fell asleep. Caleb was 8, bright-eyed and gentle, still carrying questions about his mother that Marcus never quite knew how to answer. She had left quietly years ago, leaving behind a note, an empty closet, and a responsibility Marcus never once tried to escape. By day, Marcus worked as a senior financial analyst at a prestigious investment firm downtown. The building gleamed with glass and steel, a place where power dressed in tailored suits and emotions were carefully hidden behind polite smiles. His boss, Victoria Langston, was known throughout the company as brilliant, composed, and untouchable. She had built her career with relentless focus, rising through a world that rarely paused for softness. To Marcus, she was intimidating, admirable, and impossibly distant. The birthday celebration had been held on the top floor of the building, transformed for the evening into something elegant and unreal. Candlelight reflected off crystal glasses. Soft music floated through the air, and the city's skyline shimmered like a promise beyond reach. Marcus had nearly skipped the event, exhausted and uncomfortable in borrowed confidence, but attendance was expected, so he stood there, holding a drink he barely tasted, surrounded by colleagues whose lives seemed lighter than his. As the night unfolded, laughter grew louder, stories were shared, and the mood loosened. Marcus found himself closer to Victoria than he expected, drawn into a small circle of conversation. She looked different outside the office, less rigid, her smile softer, her eyes carrying a depth he had never noticed during meetings. When someone teased her about never slowing down, about work being her only commitment, the group laughed, and Marcus felt the familiar urge to deflect seriousness with humor. That was when he said it. A quick remark, half smile, half sigh, something along the lines of marrying her if work was already her life partner. It was meant to be harmless, a throwaway line to keep the laughter alive. But as soon as the words landed, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter faded, replaced by a silence that pressed against Marcus's chest. He felt exposed, foolish, and painfully aware of the distance between who he was and the world he stood in. A single dad with second-hand furniture, joking about marriage with a woman whose life seemed untouched by compromise. He wished he could rewind time, swallow the words back into the exhaustion that birthed them. Victoria did not laugh. She did not brush it off. Instead, she looked at Marcus with an intensity that made his heart stumble. The room around them blurred, colleagues watching with thinly veiled curiosity, waiting for her reaction. Marcus prepared himself for embarrassment, for a cold dismissal that would follow him back to his desk on Monday. But something unexpected happened. Victoria's expression softened, not with amusement, but with something heavier, something human. She studied Marcus as if seeing him for the first time, not as an employee, not as a subordinate, but as a man carrying invisible weight. The rest of the evening passed in a haze. Marcus left early, his thoughts tangled, the city lights blurring through the car windows as he drove home. Caleb was asleep when he arrived, curled under his blanket, one small hand gripping a worn stuffed bear. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed longer than usual, guilt and confusion knotting in his chest. He had crossed a line even unintentionally, and he feared the consequences. The following days were unbearable. Every email notification made his stomach tighten. Every meeting felt charged with unspoken tension. Victoria remained professional, composed, but quieter around him. Marcus replayed the moment endlessly, regretting his need to joke, his inability to stay invisible. Then came the email requesting a private meeting. Marcus barely slept the night before. He imagined termination papers, formal warnings, the unraveling of the stability he had fought so hard to maintain for Caleb. He arrived early, hands trembling slightly as he straightened his tie, reminding himself that dignity mattered, no matter the outcome. The meeting room was quiet, sunlight streaming through tall windows. Victoria arrived on time, her presence filling the space with the same authority as always, but there was something different in her eyes. She invited Marcus to sit, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. She began by acknowledging the comment at her birthday, not with anger, but with honesty. She explained that it had caught her off guard not because it was inappropriate, but because it touched something she rarely allowed herself to feel. She spoke about loneliness hidden behind success, about birthdays spent in boardrooms, about relationships sacrificed at the altar of ambition. Marcus listened, stunned, realizing that the woman he had placed on a pedestal carried her own quiet ache. Then she surprised him. Further, by sharing that she had noticed his dedication long before that night. His punctuality, his integrity, the way he left early without complaint to pick up his son, the way he never used his circumstances as an excuse. She admitted that his joke had not offended her, but awakened a curiosity about the man behind the spreadsheets. Marcus left the meeting dazed, not reprimanded, not dismissed, but seen. The days that followed unfolded differently. Conversations became warmer, eye contact lingered a second longer, and the office felt less like a battlefield and more like a place where people existed beyond titles. Weeks passed, and life continued its steady rhythm. Caleb had a school project, Marcus burned dinner, bills still arrived, but something subtle had shifted. Victoria invited Marcus to lunch one afternoon not as a boss, but as a person. They spoke about childhoods, regrets, faith, and the strange ways life shapes people through loss. No promises were made, no lines crossed, but understanding grew quietly between them. Near the end of the school year, Marcus received another invitation, this time to a charity event supporting single-parent families. Victoria was a major donor, and she had personally requested his presence. Marcus attended, unsure of what to expect, but hopeful in a way he had not allowed himself to feel in years. That night, surrounded by stories of resilience and generosity, Victoria took the stage and spoke not about money, but about empathy. She spoke about seeing people beyond their roles, about how a single moment can reveal the depth of another's soul. Her gaze found Marcus in the crowd, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you that kindness can appear in unexpected moments, please take a second to like this video and share it with someone who might need encouragement today. In the months that followed, Marcus's life did not transform overnight. There were no sudden fairy tale endings. But there were changes. Victoria became a steady presence, respectful and patient, understanding that Marcus's first priority would always be his son. Caleb, cautious at first, slowly warmed to her kindness, her willingness to listen, her presence that never felt forced. Marcus learned that sometimes words spoken without intention can open doors meant to remain hidden. He learned that strength is not found in perfection, but in vulnerability, and that love does not always arrive with certainty, but often with humility and grace. Just before the story ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they help build a community of shared hope. In the end, Marcus never forgot the fear he felt that night at the birthday party, the moment his joke hung in the air like a mistake. But he also never forgot what followed: understanding, compassion. A reminder that even in rooms filled with power and prestige, hearts can still recognize one another. And sometimes the words that leave us speechless are not the ones we regret, but the ones that remind us we are not as alone as we thought.